This podcast is a Thom production recorded on Aboriginal land.
Two audiences today. If you're a creative, a producer, or a director, and you can kind of come around to this thinking, you will explode in favoritism for client work. And also, if you commission work on the brand side, second half of this episode is going to change the way that you brief for the next one. It really was a realization of, oh my God, we've been overshooting. Now, shoots are about brand and storytelling, campaign architecture.
Welcome to Process the Podcast, a meeting of creative minds. Let's dive in.
Hi guys, welcome back to Process the Podcast. I'm your host, Arielle Thomas, motion director, social strategist, and founder of production company Cinema Thom. This episode is powered by Remy, our energy gummy brand. Remy was created because I really wanted to get over the 3 p.m. slump, and this time of year, particularly when I don't have any trips planned, there's shoots and everything, just the work feels like a lot, and also the world is really heavy. The 3 p.m. slump is getting me worse than ever. So I wanted to just give it a quick shout out in this episode because it's not sponsored, so I've put my own brand in there as sponsorship. Check out remywellness.com.au. I'm sure that you will love it. This episode is going to be all about shoot architecture, and the reason for that is that I have not seen anyone talking about this. Shoots have changed dramatically over the past 12 to 18 months in terms of demand. We have every single app under the sun demanding their own style ratio assets, let alone all of the shoot needs like store windows print, store windows LED video, all of these different things that need to be covered across, and just how far a shoot needs to go and stretch and how much brands need to get out of their dollars. It's a lot. I have not seen this spoken about anywhere, so I wanted to be the one to jump in there and show you at least how we're doing things over here at Cinema Thom to share with you guys, the podcast audience. We've also plugged the script into AI and it's created a workbook version for you, so jump into the show notes if you want to check that out. This episode was recorded in the clubhouse, which I'm really excited about, and I'm in a new position. I'm on the dining table and I think I'm going to stay here. The couch is fantastic, but it leaves too much room for error. Jump over to YouTube if you want to watch this episode. Let's dive in. I also want to preface that this is timestamped. It's currently April 28th. I don't want you guys to be back in the catalog of Process and I haven't acknowledged a brand new app that came out in June called Bing Bong and be like, Arielle, you didn't even address the app. It's April 28th. 2026, I'm timestamping. This is how we're doing things for now. So here's the thing. I keep running into briefs that come up that are like, we need 40 images, 10 hero images, and some video. That is a really old school way to brief. And I used to read that and say, yeah, cool, no worries. I'll go build a mood board. Let's talk about it. Let's shoot it and deliver. However, this episode is going to be a playbook, and I'm currently pre-planning shoots with the thought of a shoot architecture that takes place to make sure that nothing gets made that has nowhere to go. Everyone on set knows exactly what's happening, and the work is done in pre-production so meticulously to make sure that the campaign lands, that you are setting yourself up for success. I think that everybody in the industry is thinking about this and working away at it privately, but nobody's talking about it publicly. So I wanted to give you a sticky beak. Two audiences today. If you're a creative, a producer, or a director, this is going to save you weeks of chaos, but also give you so much more flexibility and time in the work that you're doing around the literal creative, because you know the boundary of what you've got to create. You know how it's no guardrails is bad, because we actually need guardrails as creatives. This is going to give you a bit more of a guide so you can perform. And also, if you commission work on the brand side, this second half of this episode is going to change the way that you brief for the next one. So stay with me, both of you. Download that sheet in the show notes if you want to, and let's get into it. The fast context here is that media buys have fragmented, but we all know that. What I think needs to be asked of creative directors, CMOs, marketers, even social media girlies now is much more organization and specificity around content. Now a single campaign from one of my clients lives across store windows, in-store LED screens, mall LED takeovers, print, 4 or 5 EDMs, an e-commerce homepage that refreshes multiple times in a campaign, 3 platforms of paid socials with different aspect ratios that also need to keep testing and learning and updating, and then the organic content calendar on top of that. And the client wants all of it looking like one thing, but not too much because we can't have it fatigue, which is crazy. But what I like to call this method and the way that we're working is, sometimes people will call it a content pyramid. Cool. I call it pulled pork, which means you get a pulled pork like in a slow cooker for 10 hours and you are literally pulling everything off that bone. You've got the good pieces, the main chunks, and then you're really, really pulling it off. My clients laugh when I call it that, but you know how it is. So the creative is not just the output anymore. It is the shoot backbone. It's the spine. And if you don't architect the spine with the right vertebrae, there's a lot of metaphors going on here, sorry. You're going to ship a campaign that looks consistent maybe, but most commonly you're going to burn out your teams with the pressure of like, wait, where is this going? Hang on, why are we shooting this? Wait, okay, sure. So I want to introduce a framework called shoot architecture, and it has 3 tiers. And I want you to hold them in your head as if they're 3 columns. I want you to imagine the 3 columns. Let's start with tier 1. This is called paid placements. This is very fixed. This is commercial destinations of content. It is store windows, LEDs, mall LEDs, like out of home. It is print. It is invitations that you know that the event, because the brand's going to plan coming up. It is media buy requirements. It's EDM hero banners. It's e-commerce homepage hero slots. All the places where somebody has paid money for real estate or an opportunity to generate commerce locked in, and you know that it's going to be there. I get so frustrated when marketers, or I hear from brand side, people are like, oh yeah, and then we have a homepage. They know that they're going to have to do that, but why not write it down and why not document it? I want you to think about where the real estate is within the brand or within all of the deliverables. There's a deadline for it, and there's a ratio that you know has to be locked, but you just haven't necessarily planned for it. That is tier 1. Tier 2 is organic cadence. This is a calculated social output, the thing that you're posting 3 to 4 times a week. It can kind of move around if you need it to. It's also where paid ads will kind of have a sticky beak and be like, what's performing really well for the audience already. If you're up with paid marketing, you will know that a lot of paid strategies are built on what's performing really well on organic. So this is really, really important as a layer and not something to just be handed off. I would say anything that goes viral should then just be boosted because people like it. It obviously converts, it works, and it's sticky content. So this is the thing that you're posting 3 to 4 times a week for the duration of the campaign. This tier has maths, and we're going to go through the equation part in a moment, but it has maths to it. Tier 3 is the opportunistic catches. This is the reserve. This is the last minute billboard, the postcard that somebody suddenly wants printed because they've got a little collab happening. This is the still that has to be the background of the launch event invite, whatever you need. This is the tier that everybody forgets, but it is a tier that if you skip it, you're going to regret later. So I also have had to learn this the hard way. I've learned that the reserve is one of the trickiest things to think of in advance, but when you do, it can really save you. An example of a killer reserve strategy would be like if you're shooting an event for a brand and you know that there's a lot coming up in the works across the calendar. We've got Mother's Day, then you've got a conference, then you've got Black Friday and the holiday season after that and all that kind of stuff. And you know this, that you work for this brand that doesn't necessarily have too much budget. If you've got an event shooting women of that like kind of older demo, or that's the reserve when you're thinking like that, like further ahead. I'll go into it a little bit more in a moment. 3 tiers though: paid, organic, and opportunistic. And if you remember nothing else from this episode, at least remember those 3 words or those 3 columns so that when you plan your shoot, you can come back to it. That is how we're thinking. So now I'm going to do the part of this that's kind of annoying to do in audio. So we're going to say maths out loud. Stay with me. It's worth it, I promise. And again, there is a worksheet, so save this and you can come back to it. Okay. The question that organic cadence answers is, how many distinct looks do I actually need to shoot? Because you don't need 36 looks on a campaign. You might need 36 setups. That's what we're talking about here. Fewer setups can work much harder than you think, and you leave those individual looks to the e-commerce. We're talking about campaign structure or content structure with setups. I want to get out of the thinking that you need 36 or like the whole thing or like every single thing shot. We need to kind of remove that because that layer doesn't help us sell. It actually makes the shoot day worse because you're all rushing. We need to try and convince clients to move away from every single thing shot and more doing fewer things really, really well. But let's talk about that, because also by the end of this, we'll have 95 pieces of content that I'm talking to you about. So let's talk about the numbers. If your campaign is going to go for 12 weeks, and if you don't know how long your campaign is going to go for, that's something that you need to think about. How long is your campaign going to go for? And is the cadence 3 to 4 posts a week of new campaign content? Then you're going to need 36 organic assets, right? Because 12 weeks, 3 to 4 times a week. So that's done on 3 posts a week maths. 36 organic assets. Then you're going to take that 36 and you're going to divide the number of weeks a single look can carry before it starts to fatigue. In my experience, a strong look in fashion or lifestyle fatigues after about 1 to 2 weeks. I get kind of sick of seeing that print. The consumer's like, yeah, okay, we get it. You did my hair. We know. So kind of having a think about that. In beauty, it can stretch out to usually 3 weeks. In FMCG, I always get confused with that, fast moving consumer goods, it can compress kind of into one. You know your category. If we're selling bigger cheese, really you don't need to do too many setups and thinking about fatigue. It's cheese. But if you're Gem, for example, Georgia Gominda's brand, Gem is fantastic because they act like a beauty brand. They're so good at that. And you'll sort of start to see, now that you'll see this work play out, you won't be able to unsee it with these bigger middle tier brands that are working on this kind of cadence. So 36 assets divided by 2 weeks before it's going to fatigue, which is 6 2-week blocks essentially, because it's a 12-week campaign, equals 6 distinct setups. So as a creative director, I know I've got to refresh and make things look new again 6 times. Cool. Okay, we can work with that maths. 6 setups is very different to a shoot that has 36 setups. Imagine the frantic and chaotic energy on set. 6 setups you can realistically produce in a day with proper planning. 36 setups is like I've done that in one day. It was really intense, but it's usually like depending on how big your brands are also, like e-com, different. We're talking about campaign, remember. We're not talking about e-coms. A lot of people will be like, 36, that's easy. In e-com and content, yes, we're talking about campaign. So that's usually like a maybe 2 to 3 day shoot doing 36 setups with a crew of 20. By looking at these and doing less, you can also, with a 6 setup situation, save the client usually 50 to 100K. The first time I did the maths on this, it really was a realization of, oh my God, we've been overshooting, and like, oh my God, I've just been trying to do so much. It was Christmas last year for Anko Global, for specifically the Philippines account. It was that with the Philippines, and there was so much to cover, which I can get into the minutia of another time, but it was a lot and I want to keep moving. So you cross-check this number that we've gotten, you cross-check it against the e-commerce refresh cadence, right? So if the site updates 3 times in 12 weeks and each update needs a hero still and a hero video, that's 6 hero assets. Cool. If your setups are 6, they align. If they don't align, one of the numbers is wrong. You've got to figure that out before you shoot, not after. You need to think about everything and the refresh rate of everything. Cool. We're going to do a case study for you guys. I have made up a brand called Halcyon after Halcyon House. It's a cashmere brand because I'm wearing a cute mohair from Rome, the label. We're going to make them a cashmere brand in my head. So mid-market Australian brand, 34 retail stores, right? A solid e-commerce business too. A winter campaign that needs to run for 12 weeks starting in early May. These are real numbers, real structure. We're going to figure this out so I can say it out loud. Tier 1. Paid placements, stay with me because I'm going to do a list, right? This is the kind of stuff that's on my spreadsheets. Store windows, 1 printed hero per store, 34 stores. Cool. In-store LEDs, 2 vertical videos and 1 horizontal, looping in every store. Mall LED, 6 shopping centres, 1 15-second spot each. Mall print, they want 2 static posters in each centre. EDMs, 4 sends over the campaign, each needs its own hero image. E-commerce homepage refreshes 3 times across a campaign, so 3 hero stills and 3 hero videos. Paid social, 1 carousel of 5 frames, 1 static post, 1 6-second post, 1 15-second post, all ratios, wants to refresh every month. That's a lot. Add that up before we even begin to touch organic. That paid tier already requires 35 to 45 finished, distinct assets. Some of them are reused, cool. Some of them are not. All of them need to be planned. And I'm saying this because I want people to realize that now shoots are about brand and storytelling, campaign architecture. This is how we're working, and this is what I want to share with all of you. The brief of 40 images, 10 heroes is delusional in 2026. To be successful, the places that you have to be and how organized with the spreadsheets that you have to be, it's a lot. Tier 2, organic, 12 weeks, 3 posts a week, 36 assets, fatigue window of 2 weeks, 6 distinct setups. I check that against the e-commerce refresh cadence, 3 refreshes, 6 hero visuals. It aligns? Good. Tier 3, opportunistic. For each of these 6 setups, I want a reserve pack of photos, right? I want a wide, I want a tight, and I want a packaging shot. And I want a packaging shot with everything that the brand can think of. Sometimes they can't think of it. You have to think of it. This means, okay, you're a beauty brand, pick up the mascara, hold it in your hand. Cool, you've got a gift card coming out. You've got new packaging coming out for Christmas. You've got Christmas wrapping, whatever. All of it, I want to know about it. As your brand architect, I want to know. Let me help you. So figure all of that stuff out. That is about 4 extra shots per setup, 6 setups, it's 24 reserve assets. That is a tier that serves me when a client rings on day 37 of the campaign and says, we've got a small billboard confirmed. What are we going to do? Can you send us something? Yes, I can. Yes, I can. So total deliverables planned from one shoot. We've got paid, 35 assets, organic, 36 assets, opportunistic, 24. That is 95 pieces of content, all of them with a home, all of them on the day, me being able to communicate to my photographer, this is what this photo's for. No, you have not finished your job. I'm the person with the clipboard. You need to do that in horizontal for Christmas. That's the vibe that we need to have because brands are spending money with us where if we're going to be good at our jobs, we're in the trenches with them, we provide a service. This is what Cinema Thom are doing. We're shooting shoots that do not deliver 40 images anymore. We are architecting shoots that deliver 95 pieces of planned content and every single one of them knows where it's going. I'm going to let that sit with you a little bit as well because project managers, producers, all of these things, like they love spreadsheets too. So if you're a creative and you can kind of come around to this thinking, you will explode in favoritism for client work because this is where the sweet spot is for 2026 and where it's going. So second half, as I promised, business owners, if you commission this work, I pretty much implore you that you are asking the wrong questions. Ask them these 3 questions instead. And I'm not sure where you're going to get the answers to because I can't understand your business makeup. But if I was a marketer at Halcyon, my cashmere brand, and I wanted to ask, what are all placements for this campaign that has to live in, paid and organic? If they can't list them off the top of their head, they haven't scoped the job out properly. Understand the placements of your paid placement tier 1. You need to speak to your paid ads agency or performance agency and understand their refresh rate. You need to understand the web refresh rate and you need to understand any out of home opportunities that you've got. If you have stores, you need to be thinking about that refresh rate and get really used to prepping the work well and truly before those dates begin of refresh because we need time to revise, take on feedback and deliver anything. Also because the marketing department not only is going to have to check that the work is great, they're going to have to send it to their higher ups, get the work approved. Further to that, they may have to do a stock check to be like, is cashmere blue mohair still actually in stock? Can we push that? Or do we need to pull it and put in something else? Your reserve. And you say, yes, we absolutely can. So that's kind of that thinking there. We need to have this scoped by the paid ads agency. 2, how many weeks is this running? What is the fatigue window for this category? If they can't answer, they've never done the maths for you. They're guessing. They need to do the maths. That is the job of an organic ad agency, a social media manager, or a creative agency, whoever you're using in your makeup. This is how this kind of works. You need to understand your fatigue rate on organic. 3, what does the reserve layer look like? If they don't have one, you're going to be the person calling them on a panic on a Wednesday because something's come up. A great opportunity for the business. This does not make you disorganized. This makes opportunities coming fantastic, but we need to all work together. You need to have that reserve down and it needs to be yes. So 3 questions. You need to be talking about placement, fatigue, and reserve. If your creative team can answer all the questions cleanly and clearly, you're working with architects. If they can't, you're probably just working with a photographer's photographer that takes direction and doesn't really understand the scope or the size of the business. If you're working with someone that hasn't worked like this before, I would ask that you send them the episode firstly, and then also just get them to think about that for a while. Have them sit with this concept so that they can begin to adapt and lean into not only a mood board, but a spreadsheet, because I think it's important for brands in every angle to learn this and also take note of where all the content is going. Like I've noticed it recently, straight after Biebercella, we saw Justin Bieber and Hailey Bieber modeling for Rode, and that dropped the day after Biebercella. Those assets went far and wide, but primarily I saw them on socials and in the EDM. We don't get to see usually the media buy being in Australia, but it's really exciting to be able to see those things. And I think it's underrated our eye for them of being like, oh, great, like that campaign went far and wide. They used the pulled pork or the content pyramid. We need to start looking at how brands are doing it the best in the world in their brand architecture and thinking like this as well. So business owners are not idiots. You guys and myself included. I just don't think that we've been taught to brief this way. And if you want to be on the front foot of your creative teams and really lean into your investment, you should be even creating the spreadsheet, not your creative agency. If you have somebody that kind of works as like a bit of a hybrid CMO, creative director, they can create the spreadsheet and you can cross-check it. But if you're really the one paying for a shoot and you don't engage this agency often, you should be the keeper of that castle, and you should go back to the beginning of the episode and really map it all out. What I want you to do, the 3 things before we wrap. The first thing, grab the shoot architecture worksheet. It's linked in the show notes, as I said before. It has 3 tiers and 3 columns. The fatigue maths is built into it, a placement audit, and it also has an asset matrix that you can hand to your producer. This is the thing that I use. I'm not selling it. It is free. I just want it in your hands because I don't think that anybody else is doing this work. And it is so exhausting keeping up with all of the content. So I'm excited that that's going to be in your hands for you guys to lean into. Also, 2, if this made sense, I really want you to send it to somebody. The fact that in podcasting, we're putting ourselves out there, we're in your ears every week as a baby podcaster. I'm really serious about process, and I would love for you to help me by sending this to either creatives that you work with or just somebody that has a business or a brand that you think would benefit from it, somebody that needs to hear this reframe. That would be amazing. And 3, if you want me to do a part 2 on how we actually then take this framework and put it into a shoot day and work all of this out with our spreadsheets, and you want a sticky beak around that, let me know. I can send it to you if you literally just want to glimpse it, or I can make an episode about it, of course. So good shoots start with mood boards. Great shoots start with spreadsheets. And I think that the world needs to reframe the thinking because we've got so much to keep up with. This is not a loss of creativity. This is respecting creativity enough to be resourced properly. Thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. Short and sweet. We're getting snappier here on the Petites. I want to give you as much as I possibly can. Please subscribe to the show, like it, follow it, send it to a friend. Thank you so much for being here, and I will see you next Tuesday. Next week's episode, we jump into Australian Fashion Week with some designers. Please follow the show so you do not miss anything. Brand architecture is something I'm going to be talking to them about too, and I don't want you to miss it. So follow, like, subscribe. Thank you for being here, and I'll see you next Tuesday.